So we're really going to break this down. The right eye deadly wound is mentioned 3 times in Revelation 13. That's the 666 chapter. It's the main chapter concerning the Antichrist in Revelation. And it begins with woe. Woe to the idle shepherd. This is the opposite of Jesus, the shepherd of the sheep. This is the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Now, you look at the names of all of Wednesday's episodes, and they all have the word woe in the title. Every one of them. And concerning Zechariah 11:17, the Heidi Bowl football game, on 11/17 in 1968, there was a football game between the right eye utterly darkened Raiders logo against the Jets. What hit the Twin Trumps on 9/11? The Jets. Oakland Raiders logo. That's what they were then.
The Las Vegas Raiders. Here you go.
That's what they were then. The Oakland Raiders. And you can see the right eye is darkened. And they played the Jets. What hits Donnie Darko's bedroom? A jet engine. Donnie Darko. Right eye utterly darkened for Donald. Donnie Darko. Or the Dark Knight. But 2 days later, after The Dark Knight was released, 4 years apart, both on leap years, 2008, 2012, but the release dates were 2 days apart because Jesus rose on the third day. So it's The Dark Knight, July 18th release, and The Dark Knight Rises, July 20th release. So that is telling you The Dark Knight will rise on the third day, or the right eye utterly darkened Antichrist will rise on the third day. And you see him rising from this pit, from this abyss. That's him as the programmed head. That's a long story. But there's Day of the Dead, which Wednesday's TV episode speaks to. Day of the Dead. And you see him coming up out of that pit, right? See him rising. Day of the Dead. That's what that skeleton represents. And now you see him coming up out of a hole. That's the North Pole. That's why it's snowing. Santa, Satan, Satan, Santa, they all have the same letters. And you see his right eye wound. Now there's 3 different characters that represent the Antichrist or Trump. There's the man in the boat, which 007 mimicked in Skyfall. He was standing in a boat, in a trance. And I'll do a complete separate video on that. There's also him getting programmed by the AI. And so he's being programmed, going through the rebirthing process, but he's attached to the technology. See, that snake is a cord, and there's the reptilian eye of Satan. So the ghost in the machine, or Satan, is programming him through the technology. And that is actually what the mark of the beast is through the technology. There he is riding in the boat. So you see the technology cord and Satan in the technology, or the ghost in the machine. And now the child is going through the rebirthing. Like Jesus said, unless you become like one of these little children, because everybody, when they first get the call out of the world, they're like a baby. in Jesus. Jesus wasn't talking about kids. He was talking about unless you become like one of these, unless you become a child in Christ, because Paul refers to when you first come into the Lord, when you first get that call, that baptism by the Holy Spirit, Paul says you're drinking milk. You're not eating meat yet. You're a child. In other words, somebody that's been called by the Lord and having the world beaten out of them for years knows way more than somebody that just gets the call and begins to come out of the world. So your Antichrist, Trump, is now like that of a little child. And of course, you see the blue eyes, and Trump, of course, was a blue-eyed child. And he's also the kid that rises, and he's also this man in the boat, standing in the boat, that James Bond mimicked in the movie Skyfall. He stood in that boat, and the boat went through the mouth of a dragon. Like, you can't make this stuff up. So I've actually found it in an old video that I did. So this is, I guess I just need to let me do the talking. So he's standing in that boat.
So right on the bottom, when you look at the look on his face,
He's in a trance.
He's the exact same.
Good grief. I'm never going to get done with this. Let me put this on fast forward,
He has the exact same look on his
and I'll
face.
shut me up. I'll mute me in this. And so there's me looking apparently through the rebirthing, the man in the boat. So here's Trump, or 007, the seventh king of Mystery Babylon. And he's standing up in a boat. There he is, standing in this boat, and he's about to go through the mouth of a dragon. And he has this trance look on his face, just like the guy in iPet Goat. Like, you really, really, really cannot make this stuff up. And he's going through the mouth of a dragon. And next year is the year of the dragon, the election year, if nothing happens this year. But everything seems to point to this year. There's no doubt about it. We know Satan is the dragon anyway. So, all right, I think we did enough there. Fantastic. When you go back to the Heidi game or the Heidi Bowl, you can tell how long the AI or the ghost in the machine has been writing the script. Because, again, the game was on November 17th. That's 11/17. The woe to the idle shepherd, right eye utterly darkened, Donnie Darko. The right eye utterly darkened Raiders playing the New York Jets. Donnie Darko jet engine hits his house. And we go to look at the images, and you see the jet engine. That's what killed Donnie. Now, Donnie survives this, but then goes back at the end of the movie and dies. It's a time travel movie. So he lives and he dies. He lives through it and then he dies of it. Well, that's the twin Trumps. One of the twin towers had a horn on the top, or a gigantic antenna representing the horn of Daniel 7. And Jesus said he would be here in his own name, and a trump is a horn, and a horn is a trump. So anyway, you get the idea there. By the way, that's called Donald Trump Antichrist Part 13 Skyfall 007. I'm getting it from Skyfall iPet Goat 2, marked private because it got copyright strikes. And this is at Telling Truth Archives, and you got to click playlist. And it's a 56 video playlist where I break down movies. I've never, ever seen anybody break down James Bond movies like I do. I can't, and I wish I could, because I'd rather learn from people. Because when you learn yourself, you just learn slowly. You know, I'd just rather have it hand fed to me, but I've had a lot of stuff hand fed to me. But you know, anything I get right, the Holy Spirit's given it to me, hand delivered it one way or another anyway. But, you know, Donald Trump, the Antichrist horn, part 14, it's just amazing. Not every single video is titled part 31 or 32 of the 56 videos. It ends in part 31, which is the 54th video. One unavailable video is hidden. I have no idea why it's hidden. I couldn't tell you which one it is. I don't know why YouTube does that, but it does that. So fantastic. All right, what's next? So I'm going to go through this post. I picked Goat 2 plus Wednesday TV series equals Mayflower Pilgrims equals Flower Full Moon equals total solar eclipse of April 20th is the new moon for the flower full moon 15 days later on May 5th. Mayflower Pilgrim boat. Okay, so think about why they called it the Mayflower in your fake history. Dark Knight plus Dark Knight Rises came out 2 days away from each other, July 18th versus July 20th. Of course, they were both on leap years, but still released 2 days apart on the third day. Hence, rises on the third day as Jesus rose on the third day. So the Antichrist, this will be a spiritual rising, and nobody's going to know that he's alive. Everybody's going to think he's dead. And see, he comes back alive, seemingly risen from the dead after World War III, because he's ended World War III. Who can make war with the beast? Dark Knight and Donnie Darko movie speak to Donald with the darkened right eye, and their titles. And this is per the Bible verse, woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye, and his arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Notice the above verse begins with woe. Each Wednesday TV series episode has the word woe in the title. 2 days before the rising is a Wednesday. See, the flower full moon is a Friday, and Wednesday and Friday are married to each other as gods and goddesses. Each day of the week is named after a god male, except Friday is named after a female goddess, Frigg. There's Odin and Frigg. And Wednesday actually represents dead souls and so forth. There is blue moon symbology in I Pet Goat with the two heads, because the heads are attached to each other. And we'll get into that in a moment. I guess I can do that now. So you see, notice the craters in there. That's the colored blue, and there's a blue moon this year, and it's in August. So that's August with the two attached. 2 full moons in August. And there's 12 of these. But see, she's holding the 13th. She's holding the flower full moon. So you have 13 people sitting here, and 13, they represent 13 full moons. Inside of that apple is the flower full moon. What speed do I have this on? Let's speed this thing up. And so there's Trump sitting there with his upside down pyramid logo hand signal. By the way, Revelation 17 talks about the 7 kings of Mystery Babylon, and he is the 7th. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because the verse goes on to say the 8th is of the 7. There's an 8th king of Mystery Babylon, and in No Time to Die, James Bond comes back, and the girl has occupied 007's number. There's a new 007. They thought Bond was dead, or had quit. Yeah, on that one, I think it was that he had quit. They thought he was dead in Skyfall, which had right eye wound in it. He had a right eye wound, and it was shot by a rifle. and goes through a waterfall, which is divine feminine symbology, and is saved by the Yoni hand signal. It's fascinating the way they did all this. And but there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and 1 is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the king which was, I can't do it verbatim. Let me pull it up. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and that's the 8th. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. That's the Antichrist. And the beast that was, the Twin Towers, and is not, oops, the Twin Towers are down, oops, Trump is down. Even he is the 8th, because he's returned as Antichrist, and is of the 7, because it's a body double switch, and goeth into perdition. So that's what's going on there. So you go back to these photos, and you've got the 7th and the 8th. And Trump did a Pizza Hut commercial where he said, Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Donald Trump were all cut from the same cloth. And that cloth is very, very large because it's the 7 kings over the entire period of the earth that Mystery Babylon has been running this earth since the days of Babylon. And of course, Hollywood just did a movie called Babylon. Shocker. And but yeah, y'all want to see the Pizza Hut commercial? So let me check the speed on this. It's normal.
Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Donald Trump.
Napoleon and Alexander the Great, one of the 2 of the 7 kings of Mystery Babylon.
We're all cut from the same cloth.
You're all cut, and there's your twin Trump symbology. There's 2 Trumps inside of that square up there. And then he is the 8th. So you've got the body double. It's
That cloth is very, very large.
Because it's very, very large because it stands over a period of thousands of years. You know, there wasn't always a king represented each year, but you'd go a century or 2 and there'd be a king, and then you go 5 or 6 centuries, there'd be another king in Mystery Babylon, and so forth.
Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Donald Trump. We're all cut from the same cloth.
So fascinating, right? Saturday Night Live did a skit, and these 2 twins sunk at the same time below the picture. When he told them to leave, they went down out of the picture in unison together. They were representing the twin Trumps, or the Twin Towers. And over here are your other 6 kings of Mystery Babylon. Just count the hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you got 7 and 8. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Saturday Night Live. There's Alexander the Great, Napoleon right there. And Nebuchadnezzar was the first Babylonian king in the book of Daniel. And he was called. He was not fallen. 7 kings, 5 are fallen. And there's 2 different ways you can look at that, but I'm not going to get into that. Whether it's 2 were saved of the 7, or 1 was saved of the 6. Because I know Darius the Mede was also saved. That is not the same as Darius the Third. So this photo is misleading, in my opinion. Possibly. Depends on how you look at it. That's a long story, and we're not going to get into that kind of math right now. There is the 88 Lights tribute, because 88 is Trump and Sybil gematria, where A is 1, B is 2, Z is 26, TRUMP, add those together. This was called the 88 Lights tribute because 88 is Trump 88 miles per hour. They admitted that Biff was based off Trump in Back to the Future 2. Where Biff owned a casino, like Trump did. And we know the license tag says out of time, but it's got August on it, which is where those blue moons are. Remember in 2020 when they gave us the bat coin? I mean, everything that goes on in your world is a joke to them. And they get all these like satanic ritual powers from putting all this stuff right in your face, realizing 99.999% of the people have no clue what's going on. Now, they showed up as the Addams family, and Trump gave the Pope a lotus flower, which is the flower that blooms in I Pet Goat. And they're there as the Addams family. There was a Batman Contagion where they're all wearing masks. Decades before it all went down. This has all been pre-programmed decades and decades in advance. Batman, shadow of the bat. The shadow falls upon the apocalypse plague, it says. And when the apocalypse comes, that stuff's going to ramp back up big time. And that's a long story. In Skyfall, you see the right eye wound. See the right eye wound there when he got blasted at the beginning of the movie? He was asked what his hobby was, and he said resurrection. After Bond went down the waterfall, which is a big symbol of the divine feminine, but so is the 666 Yoni hand signal. And it's what saves Bond and resurrects him after he's been shot at the beginning of the movie Skyfall. Trump has the upside down pyramid at the base of 6x6x6 bushes. Get it? Bush. That represents the divine feminine also. And it's how he sits with his chalice-like hand signal. The cup, the chalice. The Da Vinci Code was all about this kind of stuff when you watch it. Even during the Ice Bucket Challenge, which was like a baptism ritual for the earth or America, he's sitting with that upside down pyramid chalice. That's how he rolls. Now, Trump's mother's from Scotland and James Bond's mother's from Scotland. And in a movie Highlander that also featured 007, Sean Connery, the guy's name in the movie was MacLeod, and that's Trump's mom's maiden name, MacLeod. And MacLeod came from Scotland. He was immortal. Get it? Immortal. He couldn't die like Trump. His name was Connor MacLeod. Trump's mom's maiden name, MacLeod. And MacLeod came back, when he came to the United States, he landed in Queens, New York, which is where Trump was born. Cannot make this stuff up. It's too insane. In Back to the Future, they gave you the upside down backwards. If you turn the 6 upside down and backwards, it'll be 9/11. And they gave you the Twin Pines Mall, but then they gave you the Lone Pine Mall, which is the Antichrist or One World Trade Tower opening up. And who knows, that could be the 134th day of the year next year. So it's not what I suspect, but you just never know what any of their stuff could be telling you. So the 134th day is May 14th, which is Israel's anniversary, and that's where the Antichrist declares himself to be God. And so that's perfect, the way they did that. Wow. So I want to get to the Wednesday series real quick. Hang on just a quick second. So this is the post that I made on Facebook. The flower full moon is a lotus in I Pet Goat. It's what blooms from the Big Apple. And the girl that delivers this flower full moon, you know, it's the flower full moon blooms from that big apple. She's holding this apple that's too big, that's very big, it's sitting in her hand. So we would call it the Big Apple in New York City, where we suspect they're telling us that might be where the fake deadly wound event takes place. Hang on a second. So Lily, the girl, she delivers this flower full moon, and she's sitting inside of a circle or a ring, which is called a corona, which is the outer ring of a total solar eclipse. A total solar eclipse is a new moon. Whenever you have total solar eclipses, they are new moons. And this total solar eclipse, or what Lily is sitting inside of, or what she is representing, delivers us the flower full moon that blooms from the apple, this oversized apple or this big apple that's sitting inside her little small hands. So if it doesn't go down in May, though, there is some ambiguity that it could be the month of August, and we'll go over that because there's a blue moon in August. And I do see these two August moons as their heads are connected. Now, the blue moon is 117 days for the Bible verse, Revelation 11:7, 117 days, or the Bible verse 11:7. The blue moon is 117 days from the flower full moon. And the first moon in August is 88, which of course 88 is Trump in gematria, 88 days from the flower full moon. So the two moons in August are 88 and 11:7, almost saying like Trump Antichrist, then rises. So if it doesn't go down in May, I'll be looking strongly at August. And if nothing goes down then, these were all very symbolic rituals. And we'll be looking at election year. The Dark Knight came out on a leap year. Dark Knight Rises came out on a leap year. But I really do suspect that it's this coming May until further notice for sure. So that's the post, the written word. Now let's go to the photos. So you see these 12, these craters, these two conjoined at the heads for the month of August. But since there's 12 in blue, that means that only 12 of the months or 11 of the 12 months are represented, since 2 are August. But Lily, again, like we were saying earlier, she is, what she's holding in her hand is that 13th 2023 full moon. And it happens to be the flower full moon of of May 5th. And each month, the full moon has a name. Like in January, the full moon is called the wolf full moon. And in February, it's the snow full moon. December is the cold full moon. Well, in May, it's called the flower full moon. And as she's sitting inside this corona, or this gold circle representing the outer ring of a total solar eclipse, and over her head, of course, is a rabbit, and it's the year of the rabbit. And there's Trump with his upside down pyramid hand signal that we established, the third one over here, if you see my cursor. And over Trump's head is an exit sign. Now, here's Lily inside the corona that I was talking about. Here's antlers at the exact 1 minute, 12 seconds of I Pet Goat. The antlers appear right over Trump's head. Antlers represent rebirth, just like the lotus flower does. And Trump, again, gave the Pope a lotus sculpture. So Trump's about to go through that rebirth. And you see exit is lit. It's in red for blood red. Year of the rabbit. You see the rabbit up here. Now the rabbit also represents a buck. Deer antlers represent a buck, but there is also a buck rabbit. Now there is a full moon. There is a buck full moon in July. So that's also something to think about. And from the total solar eclipse, if you're going backwards, it's back and to the left, which is what they said in the movie JFK concerning the assassination. And that's a whole long story. All of this stuff relates to Trump. Every assassination does. We don't believe most were real. And you're not really sure what that thing, but I'm not even gonna get into it. Anyway, so you see the reddish glow there at the Trump exit, the rabbit. So the full buck moon, when the new antlers of the buck deer push out from the foreheads. So it's the buck full moon, and we just saw the antlers over Trump's head. But what is a buck rabbit?
According to home.adelphi.edu, a male rabbit is called a buck. A baby rabbit is called a kid.
So again, the ambiguity is palpable with this whole, so is that the buck full moon that's lit? And then after that is the Trump exit. So back and to the left. So it's very, you just have to always kind of be aware that you can't just zero in on one thing, 1 year, 1 day. What is everything telling you? And they're always usually telling you more than one thing. So, but you do see a big apple, which is what New York City's called the Big Apple. And we say it's big because of the way of the size as it sits in. I mean, if we held an apple in our hands, it would not be that big compared to the size of the hands. And Trump is supposed to maybe be getting arrested in either Georgia or I think New York City, or has to report whenever this goes down. And see, Jesus died after he was arrested. And in the Trackdown episode in 1959, this guy named Dr. Walter Trump was going to save everybody by building a wall to save everybody. Build a wall. And they said it a few times. How are you going to build that wall? Of course, Trump was all about building that wall. Well, the guy was a snake oil salesman, like Trump, and he was shot at the end of the movie as he was getting arrested. So, at the end of the TV show, I mean. This is the full Trackdown episode right here. And he's going to say, according to him, and he's going to flash the Yoni hand signal when he says, according to him.
Well, no, not right now, but if you give me some time, we don't have very much help.
According to him, and you see him flash the Yoni, he says him when he points to Trump. This is Trump over here on the far right. And he talks about building a wall. I'll try to find that for you. Hang on.
From the end of the world, friend.
Ooh, the end of the world. Trump's talking about the end of the world because he is the end of the world. That's why it says out of time on the Back to the Future license tag. Anyway, let me find the build that wall.
You're home. We're ready to believe.
So he's going to say, I'm the only one. And Trump's always been like, I'm the only one that can stop World War III. I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only one that can do that.
Toward the slaughterhouse and waiting for them.
By the way, he just said, like sheep, they ran toward the slaughterhouse. Woe to the idle shepherd. That's hilarious. You really can't make this stuff up, can you?
People were ready to believe. Like sheep, they ran toward the slaughterhouse.
Like sheep, they ran to the slaughterhouse. Hilarious.
And waiting for them was the high priest of fraud.
The high priest of fraud, which of course is the Antichrist. It's the high priest.
I am the only one.
He's the only one that can build that wall. Remember who said about building a wall?
Just,
Trust me,
I can build a wall around your homes that nothing
I can build a wall. It's not the only time they say it. Here we go.
will penetrate. We save ourselves. You ask, how do you build that wall?
How do you build that wall? So it said twice, isn't it? So I spoke into this Trackdown episode, Dr. Walter Trump, fact-checked the 1950s TV show Trackdown. I really have a clip from Old Western called Trackdown, goes viral. Character name Walter Trump wants to build a wall. All the world's a stage. 1958 episode of Trackdown. And this is the full episode, by the way. It's 22:58, no commercials. So I'll put this in the description of this YouTube video. Okay. So we go back to Lily, who's sitting inside. And let me show you. Hang on. So the website is called Heliofant iPet Goat. It's at heliofant.com, HELIOFANT. And you go to the gallery and it gives you the names. And her name is Lily. And there's 2 flowers that represent the month of May. Each May has like 2 flowers. Well, in May, it's Lily of the Fields and Hawthorn. So literally, her name is Lily, holding the flower full moon. Remember, the full moon of May is called the flower full moon. And what it's going to do is it's going to roll and burst into the lotus flower. And you see where it's red over Trump's head and the rabbit lights up. And then it's going to burst into the lotus flower. And lotus flowers are all throughout this iPet goat. When he comes out, they're like in the water. Like when he's floating around here, these where are those little lilies? Let me find them. I mean, lotus flowers. Well, a lotus is a lily. By the way, he's coming out of the yoni and he's going to be birthed out of this birth canal right here. So you see like Satan. And he's like over this canal, this birth canal. And the water splashes as he comes out. He's standing in this boat, just like Bond was in Skyfall. And these lilies, see the lily floating in the water? Or the lotus, excuse me, the lotus is sitting there floating. There's another lotus sitting there floating. And there's another lotus that just bloomed when he went by. And there's lotus, 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 lotus. Fascinating, right? And notice it's at the 5-5 for May 5th, part of this video. And a lot of their stuff here. Notice it's at 5-5, which is May 5th, the flower full moon. 550 of the video. 550, 551, 552, 55. Well, it's at 552 now. So anyway, pretty big deal, I think. I think we can wrap this up, though, by just going through. So the Big Apple is in her hands equals the Big Apple in New York City. Okay. Next up, it's pointing to Trump with his hand signal. Exit in red. Trump exit. There's the flower. The apple, it's splitting. The apple also represents Lucifer, Venus, or the goddess, the queen bee, which, of course, apple bees. So now the flower full moon has bursted from the total solar eclipse, which was the new moon, which was Lily. She's rolled the apple, and it now splits. And let's watch Lily do this. It's going to get dark. And it lights up, and the rabbit lights up in the background. The exit lights up in red and blood red. And she looks sad, and she's repping this moon because she's the new moon, and it's the sad moon, and it rolls, and the new moon now becomes the flower full moon, and then Obama starts to sweat. Well, a very key scene in Wednesday that was blocked out was the Mayflower, the Pilgrim. And what's over the Pilgrim's ship is the Mayflower. Now, this is in the Wednesday episode 6. And that's a Pilgrim. And Pilgrim's World is all over this TV show Wednesday. This Pilgrim's World theme it's in the backdrop. I mean, it's not a central theme, but it's sort of in the backdrop. And when they open this secret room, this pilgrim appears, and there's a ship. Well, what do you think that ship is? That's the Mayflower. Whoa, Wednesday, every title. Whoa, woe to the idle shepherd. Come on, we got to put this together, right? And she says, more seating for the year-long Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead. So she literally mentions Day of the Dead. And on the left of that portrait of the pilgrim with the Mayflower over his shoulder, it says, All right, sorry. So it says, blood will rain. This thing fell. Sorry. Blood will rain when I rise. Dark night rises. Rise on the third day. Would rise at the flower full moon. That means he goes down May 3rd. Rises on May 5th, right? Now you do have these two conjoining heads, which are that blue moon, which they all represent a blue moon. They are 11/7 days. Revelation 11:7. Woe to the idle shepherd. I'm sorry, Zechariah 11:17. 11:7 is the rising Bible verse, talking about the Antichrist rises up out of the abyss. And in The Dark Knight Rises, he literally climbed up out of a hole in the ground, a prison. And he climbed up through and out of that hole. Well, that's Revelation 11:7. And 11/7 or 117 days from the May flower full moon is the blue moon, which is featured with this total solar eclipse. Now here's Day of the Dead right in the middle of IPEC GOAT. It is like 727. Half of 727 is 343. And that is exactly. There's the Day of the Dead character. And that's Angelina Jolie. She had a tiger on her back. And Angelina's got a gigantic tiger tattoo on her back. And here's Day of the Dead right there at the 343 mark, which is 7 times 7 times 7, 343. And there it is, Day of the Dead. And what did Wednesday mention? Day of the Dead. Dia de los Muertos. Crazy, right? And here he is rising up out of the abyss, out of the hole, just like in The Dark Knight Rises. He climbed up out of a hole. And it's the North Pole, Santa, Satan, Satan, Santa, same letters, that where the abyss is. And there is the right eye wound per Zechariah 11:17 that begins with the word woe, just like all of Wednesday's episodes have the word woe. Skyfall at the opening credits featured the deer, the buck, all throughout, blood red. There's a statue at Bond's home. Bond's mom was from Scotland. This is where the Skyfall home is. And Trump's mom's from Scotland, born in Scotland. And of course, again, like I was telling you in the movie The Highlander, the guy's name was Connor McLeod. McLeod is Trump's mom's maiden name. And Connor McLeod in the movie was immortal. He could not die. He left Scotland and landed in Queens, New York, which is where Trump was born, in Queens, New York. And of course, who was Connor McLeod's cohort in the movie? 007, Sean Connery. They link all of that type of stuff up together. Now, here's a broader picture of the Skyfall with the deer and the antlers and so forth, the buck representing the Antichrist when rebirth. In Skyfall, it's cut after the Y, as if it's two separate words, because it's not really one word, Skyfall. It's really about the sky falling and God's wrath. That's the little caveat they really don't tell you. And when you listen to Adele's song, Skyfall, it is Satan paying homage to all of those that loved him. And Satan is saying, at Skyfall, we will stand tall. In other words, when God wrath comes, we are going to stand tall. Yeah. So I guess that's it. Did we do it? We did it. The antlers over Trump's head, the exit on the year of the rabbit, total solar eclipse, and there's the full moon sitting in her hands, possibly representing the big apple, the lotus, the Mayflower on the TV show Wednesday, and the Mayflower, which tells you how fake your history is. They called it the Mayflower. And here comes your flower, full moon. The full moon of the month of May is called the flower full moon. What flower is it? It's a lotus flower, the Mayflower. Pilgrims are a theme of the movie Wednesday. Wednesday, Pilgrim's World. So Wednesday at Pilgrim World. That's the clip. Wednesday Addams 2022 versus Pilgrims ×2 Cafe and Pilgrim. Wednesday versus Pilgrims. One thing about Wednesday, she will not trust a pilgrim. See all those headlines of YouTube videos? What is Pilgrim World in Wednesday? In the first couple of episodes, Wednesday criticizes local normies, aka humans, for building an amusement park named Pilgrim World. So you get the idea. Love y'all.